Section 4.5. Describing CI/CD pipelines. Flow narrative, not commands. When people talk about CI/CD in interviews, they often get lost in syntax. They start describing pipeline files, triggers, and configuration details, and the listener slowly disconnects. A CI/CD pipeline is not important because of configuration lines. It is important because of what it allows us to do: change software safely, repeatedly, and without fear. So the best way to explain CI/CD is to tell it as a story, the journey that code takes from a developer's laptop to production. A developer finishes a change and pushes it to the repository. That one action wakes up the pipeline. The first question the pipeline asks is simple: can this code even build? If it cannot, the process stops immediately. Nothing gets deployed, nothing breaks. The developer simply gets fast feedback and fixes the problem. If it builds successfully, the pipeline asks the next question: does this code behave the way we expect? Automated tests run, unit tests, integration tests, maybe some security checks. They find problems before real users ever see them. If something goes wrong, the pipeline stops again. The team fixes it and tries once more. When the code proves that it works in isolation, the pipeline moves it into a staging environment. This is where it starts to live in more realistic conditions, alongside real services and with traffic that behaves more like production. If something unusual happens here, the issue stays contained. Users are still safe. Only after all of this comes the final question: are we confident enough to let real users interact with this? If the team is confident, the pipeline deploys to production. Sometimes gradually, sometimes behind feature flags. Always with monitoring ready to warn us if anything feels wrong. And this is the key idea. The pipeline is not only automation, it is a safety net. It turns risky, stressful deployments into controlled, predictable steps. It gives developers the courage to improve systems, because they know checks exist at every stage. When you explain CI/CD this way, people do not just hear about stages. They understand the intent behind them. Continuous integration means problems appear early, instead of exploding later. Continuous delivery means deployments become routine instead of emotional events filled with fear. Yes, the tools matter: Jenkins, GitHub Actions, GitLab CI, Azure DevOps, and many others. But the tools are not the story. The story is the flow. Code is written, automatically tested, reviewed safely, and released carefully, while feedback loops exist everywhere. When you speak about CI/CD in terms of flow, confidence, and learning, you no longer sound like someone who just pressed Run Pipeline. You sound like someone who understands why pipelines change modern software development in the first place. Once delivery becomes faster, growth introduces new pressure. In the next section, we'll talk about scaling and how to do it responsibly. End of April 5th.